Hello and welcome to the Smart Talk with me, your host, Simon from Audacity. Today's topic is all about the Bitcoin mining ban. So today we're going to be talking about how proof of work works, sort of what its positives and what its negatives are, why a mining ban from governments will be very difficult to enforce, and sort of Bitcoin moving forward. So for those of you who know and those of you who don't know, sort of Bitcoin was the first of all of our cryptocurrencies. It was a white paper that was released by a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2008, and the first Bitcoin being mined in 2009. And we believe the first one was mined by Satoshi himself, the second one was mined by a guy called Hal Finney. The network has grown in strength since it came out, and it's gone from being able to be mined at home to having commercial mining operations. These are all sort of pretty common known facts that everyone sort of goes to. But in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, certainly, we've had this constant threat of a proof of work ban because everyone says its energy use is astronomical and all the rest of it. So we're going to talk about sort of its energy uses, how it gains that use, and why it would just be pretty much impossible to do. So the way Bitcoin works is it uses computational cryptographic math to solve puzzles to secure the network. So basically, it mines blocks by solving problems. And you don't really need to understand it, you just need to know that it works, because it's the same as everything in life, isn't it? So not many people sort of grasp it works, but it does just work. It's very empowering. It's like ridiculously empowering, because anybody can run a node. You can't mine it efficiently from home anymore because the network's at this stage where it just needs too much power. So, but you can certainly, run a node and participate in the network. And when we talk about banning it, how would you go about doing that? Well, you could do it commercially. You could ban commercial operations, which you could do. So governments could enforce that, and individual states and individual countries could enforce a commercial ban. Would it affect the price? Probably. But Bitcoin is competitive by nature, so the more people that try and mine it, the harder it becomes to solve those puzzles. So reactively, the less people that try and mine it, the easier it becomes to solve those problems. So if you banned it commercially, then if it became easier to mine at home, then people would just switch back to mining it from home. And a government can't enforce what software people run on their computers. They can make things illegal, but they'll force it underground, and it just won't work. It's a free choice thing, and the genie's out the bottle. And there is a lot of support for the Bitcoin network because a lot of people view it as an alternative to sovereign currencies or an alternative investment vehicle than something that is controlled by sovereign currency. These are all really important facts because that's why, we're involved in crypto. We're involved in crypto to level the playing field between sort of like the 1% and the rest of the world. Now, Bitcoin isn't necessarily decentralized because there's a lot of large entities that have got large holdings. So the same as everything in life, you're going to get these large stakeholders in a network, and we can't do anything about that. And there's nothing we can do about that because it's free. You can't stop people from buying it. You can't stop how much people own. You can't stop, how much people send here and send there, and you just can't stop it. So all we can do is sort of like watch the network grow, be as decentralized as possible, and take it from there. And decentralization plays a key because at the moment the mining is quite decentralized between sort of China and the rest of the world. At one point a few years ago there was like 67-70% of the mining was all done in China because that's where the cheapest electricity is. And obviously Bitcoin mining is going to migrate to where the cheapest electricity is. But since sort of like political tensions and all the rest of it, it started to come back overseas, and the network certainly the mining power has certainly decentralized from what it was. But Again, if they enforced a ban, that would decentralize even further because people would just take to smaller operations, running them from home. There is already people that run mining rigs, from sound boxes and stuff like that, that just mine it at home, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can spin up your own ant miner, and you can assign it to a pool, and you can earn Bitcoin from assigning your hash power to a pool. So it's just something that you couldn't stop. Now, they could regulate it by removing access to fiat currencies. So, they can predominantly make Bitcoin illegal. But that won't work either because, again, they'll just force it underground and people will go to a barter method and they'll just completely ignore sovereign currencies and they'll pay each other in Bitcoin. So governments are in this problem now where it's the genie's out the bottle. If they try and force people not to use it, then more people will use it and they will circumnavigate their sovereign currencies. If they try and force a ban on mining and they try and force a ban on participating in the network, then they're giving economical power to other countries, because at the end of the day, if Bitcoin goes back up to its $1.5 trillion market, then if none of that activity is happening in your country and you're not gaining anything from it, then you're giving somebody else a serious advantage. And there's a lot of misconceptions around the power use for Bitcoin, because yes, the power use is very high, and whether or not you agree that Bitcoin can move to a proof of stake or should stay proof of work, or it's wasteful and that energy can go somewhere else. It's perfectly true, the energy could go somewhere else. But as of Q4 last year, nearly 60% of Bitcoin mining was done with renewable energy. And there's a lot of energy advancements that are happening from the actual Bitcoin miners who are researching to make it more efficient and are researching how to use clean energy more efficiently, like the flare-offs from gas turbines and stuff that used to just go into the air now get used to power Bitcoin mining. And so a lot of stuff that's normally wasted is actually being put to use. Now, yes, if that was captured and put to use elsewhere, then it could be used elsewhere. But you've got to capture it and you've got to store it, and that creates an electricity storage problem. You wouldn't actually believe how much electricity daily is actually wasted, because generation isn't actually estimated very well and our utility isn't estimated very well. That was the whole push for smart meters. With smart meters, we can better analyse what people are actually using, so it gives them better forecasting of how much energy to actually secure. Now, that hasn't actually happened yet. So we still waste an awful lot of electricity daily in the world, and if it's being put to a better use, i.e. securing a network, then it's not particularly wasteful at the moment. As we become more energy efficient, proof of work might sort of prove to be more energy inefficient, and if that actually is the case, then things can be reviewed to actually move it or transition it, but I can't see an actual problem with having a proof of work system coexisting with other mechanisms. If it's, at the end of the day, if it's just going to be a store of value and it's a cost to store value, then it's the same as paying storage costs for physical gold bars, or it's the same as paying storage costs for, and if it can be done in a clean and renewable way, then it isn't much of an argument. But the whole point is that it would be pretty much impossible to enforce an actual mining ban, because yes, you could enforce it commercially, but you couldn't really enforce it residentially, and there is that much support for the network that it would just switch to smaller mining operations, because that's how the network reacts. Less people trying to mine it, then the easier the things become to solve, and then the less computational power you need to actually solve those cryptographic hashes. So it's a bit of a shell game where it's a lot of fear mongering and an awful lot of misunderstanding and an awful lot of people not actually understanding and speaking, and an awful lot of it is media. There's a lot of financial interest in people playing the market. It's a pretty unregulated market at the moment, so any sort of news that can move the market by 1 or 2 or 3% can give people a real edge if they've got a lot of capital. So please be wary of all of that. So again, I hope you've enjoyed the talk. I hope it's been informative. If anyone's got any topics that they'd like my opinion on, if anyone's got anything that they would like covering, then please just let me know and I'll try my best to get round to them. So please like, please subscribe, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.